Well, good morning, everybody. Anybody that's hovering by the doors, feel free to come on in because this is going to be an outstanding talk today. And thank you for all of you coming in here because you're amazing. Day after going out to some of these amazing sponsor events that we had last night, I hope everybody had a chance to network and meet a bunch of people. But now we're going to get back to business of talking about FinOps. And I'm really excited because we have two folks that were in the keynote yesterday, and they had an amazing presentation yesterday, and they're coming here today to talk even more about the effort, challenges, benefits, and then the lessons that they've learned by implementing Focus, the Focus standard. So we're really excited to bring back to the stage. Now listen, I'm going to tell you right now, they've been trying to coach me on how to pronounce a last name. And I'm not there, but I'm going to try my best. So I'm going to do the best I can. So we're going to bring out Neven, Drljevic, and Julian, Radu, please. Welcome to them. Close.
Very good. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, guys.
So my name is Neven Drljevic, and I'm the head of software and cloud assets management at the European Parliament.
And I'm Julian Radu. I'm actually a project leader in charge of cloud management FinOps for the European Parliament.
Now, as we have a bit more time in this presentation compared to yesterday's keynote, we also get to be our boring bureaucratic selves and give a little bit of a disclaimer that everything we say today is coming from an operational IT perspective. We're not on the policy side of the house. If you want to know about the latest GDPR developments or what is in the legislative pipeline, don't talk to us. We don't know either. And of course, all the positions that we say are our own as a contribution to this professional conference. They're not necessarily the official position of the European Parliament.
Voilà. The agenda for today
is...
I need to see it. And they need to see it. So the agenda for today is going to be basically give you an introduction to how we got to do what we're doing, so the context, challenge, and what solution we found for this. We're going to talk a bit about the implementation, how we implemented it, and what we encountered as issues and other interesting things. And we're going to finish with Neven, giving you the benefits of our implementation of Focus format, as well as the vision for the future.
So first, a bit of context. The European Parliament doesn't buy services from the major hyperscalers by itself. We don't have direct contracts. We, in fact, use the European Commission, who is acting as our cloud broker. So there are open tenders, which are awarded to the different cloud hyperscalers, which are then managed and processed by the European Commission, who gets all the invoicing, and we get our own piece of that pie downstream as a chargeback.
What is the European Union? Basically, everybody knows what that is. I'm not going to get into the definitions of it. And soon you're going to see actually a series of logos that probably not mean a lot to many. You see the 12 stars of the European Union standing actually for perfection and unity among its people. And then you see something added to it. Some others have different ones, but they have a meaning, each and every one of them.
In fact, if we're talking about it from a legal perspective, we have 7 institutions. So the European Parliament representing the citizens, the Council, whether that's the European Council or Council of the European Union representing the member states. We have the Commission, which is the executive arm, and then we have the Court of Justice, the European Central Bank, and the Court of Auditors. This is supplemented by more than 12 other bodies of the Union, as well as more than 40 agencies. In total, it's an ecosystem of over 70 governmental entities that all collaborate in matters where there's not, let's say, policy disagreements. This is staffed by over 60,000 civil servants at an approximate 10 billion euro annual budget, which represents about 7% of the overall EU budget. As I mentioned, we typically collaborate on institutional procurement, especially in IT, where, of course, our interests are aligned, and the interest is that we provide the most efficient, effective, and economical service for the institution, saving citizens money as much as possible. This is, of course, the case for PaaS services, as we discussed, where the Commission takes the broker role. So how does that look specifically for the Parliament. What happens is that, as you would expect, there are certain master accounts for the hyperscalers. There are further then accounts, sub-accounts for each of our projects or account owners, units, and so on. We currently have services from AWS, Azure, IBM Cloud, and Equinix. But all of that consumption is aggregated first to the master accounts and then to the Parliament as an entity. And all of that spend is then allocated to our account with the EC Cloud Broker based on the agreements between the Parliament and the EC, with the EC then holding the agreements with AWS, Azure, IBM, Equinix, and so on based on the Cloud 2 and now upcoming Cloud 3 framework. Through that, we're basically a downstream chargeback to them. To manage this, of course, we have to have some systems. On the European Commission side, they have the infrastructure cost control system, which is an internally developed tool which focuses on the showback and chargeback functionalities for this myriad of more than 70 entities. They connect to all the contracted providers and process their invoicing into a common internal format. And of course, they put on top a little bit extra in their brokerage fees that they charge us. Importantly, this system is accessible by the central account teams of each institution. It is not something that is intended for the end users of the institution.
So actually you get this high-level data. It's really high-level data coming from the European Commission system. But as Neven was saying, it's not really usable by our stakeholders in the Parliament. So we needed to get more granular information to bring it actually specifically to, I would say, specific personas in the Parliament. And for that, we needed to actually have our own solution. So we opted out for a off-the-shelf solution that has specific capabilities and features. One of the very important points for us was actually that this tooling has to come with native connections or connectors towards major hyperscalers. This is very important to be able to connect to this, but also to something, I would say, more tailor-made solutions that we have laying around. And of course, it has to have very good analytical and reporting capabilities because this is what we're really trying to do. We want to bring this information to the fingertips of our stakeholders. Very important part into this. We went a bit fast, no problem. I'll just speak without that beautiful slide in front of me. So the idea was to simply say that we are looking at a tool that can, actually, I think that I said it already. It was basically just to make sure that we have the connectors that we need in place for each and every solution that we need to connect to. It's basically that. Thanks.
So an important connection, obviously, with the setup would be with the Commission systems, that we're able to get that data, that we're able to have data for all the systems, not just the two major hyperscalers, that we're able to have the brokerage fees. So since 2023, we've been discussing with our Commission colleagues about how do we do this? How do we actually connect those systems? The problem is that there is no unified data model, or at least there wasn't back in 23. We had the internal Commission model that they standardized all the invoicing against in their systems. We had our own model in our own system, and there was no commonality between those, no standardization. Which means that if we were to build a connector based on nothing else, it would be non-standard. It would not be easily maintainable because whenever something changed in either system, it would need to be patched, it would need to be changed. So it's not effective. It would not be efficient because whatever we built would be bespoke for just us and the Commission for that transaction. That whole ecosystem of 70 institutions would not be able to easily benefit of it. And then ultimately, any kind of extension of it, bringing in another institution, extending it to another provider, again, would require a lot of custom development for a bespoke, limited connection. We have our obligations towards citizens' money. It's in the financial regulation. We have to be efficient, effective, economical. So there was a no-go from both sides saying, okay, yes, you need something to get the data, but we cannot do this. This is not maintainable. This is not a good use of public money.
So we have this challenge. How do you make these two tools, quite different, I would say, communicate to each other, these two systems? And of course, we went to our technical experts because it's always good to have them in the house. And we discussed with them. And Julian came to me and says, we have a solution. I say, great, what is it? Focus format. We say, amazing, great, what is that? And this is actually, with the moment he came, actually he tried to explain to us, look, this is actually it's becoming an industry standard, and it's a standardized format to normalize data, cost data coming from different cloud providers and all this. And it's magic. It can connect different kinds of systems, translate information, and it gives a lot of benefits. So this is actually how we got to want to be dealing with this.
So for us, the key benefits were indeed that standardization, that this is an open industry standard for how this data should be represented. Once transferred to it, it eliminates manual data cleaning, further normalization. By the fact that it's a standard, that systems can talk with it, it means that we can enable automation, removing the manual transfers, manual interventions, which also means that we can be quicker, we can have more often the transfers. It increases the accuracy and usability of the data, again, because it's a systematic approach. And ultimately, it enables that scalability that we were looking for. Because if we build this solution according to the standard, any other institution can leverage that scalability, can plug into that endpoint for their own needs. Whereas, on the other hand, if the Commission builds any other new connection to another service provider, it comes into that ecosystem and everyone can easily leverage the data coming from them in the focus format. So it was identified as the way forward. And we had discussions on both the leadership level with the management of the responsible units at the Commission and the Parliament. We had the discussions at the product management level, so the PMs on the both sides and the engineering teams on the both sides, as well as the FinOps practitioners, and we all agreed, okay, this is a good thing. It is actually something that will be good for the entire community, with the Parliament being, let's say, the leading customer, pushing for this development and collaborating on the development of this with the European Commission. Finally, it was given the seal of approval as being effective, efficient, and economical. Therefore, resources could be allocated to do this.
The implementation is actually the painful part. So we had a few months during which actually we are struggling to find what is going to be the way forward. We had discussions with the colleagues in the European Commission because we have to connect with their system. We discussed internally with our technical experts and other colleagues. And this is actually how we came to the idea that we have to use, of course, the existing infrastructure on the Commission side, and we have to build some kind of a connector. This connector actually has to transfer some specific data from their systems. We needed actually to have very specific information in order to be able to address their needs in terms of analysis and reporting on our site. So we went actually to, of course, to take some information about the cloud service provider, looking at service categories, looking at the period, of course, the billing period that we have to go for, and of course, some more details about the sub-accounts. In a nutshell, how does it look? We extract the data from the Commission's tool. Then after this data has to be normalized through the focus format and stored somewhere from where our system, our cost management system, is going to simply ingest it, using, of course, an API. And here, actually, you have something that looks like something that we found on the spaceship at Roswell, but it's not. It's just a small schematics of a simplified, I would say, diagram of what we have put in place. On one side, you have the database of the European Commission's infrastructure cost control tool, what is called iCoco, a very funny name, really easy to remember. They put at our disposal a query service, which is basically AWS Athena. Most of you, I'm sure that you're familiar with. On the other side, we have our cost management tool that has specific limitations and specific features. And very important for us, it has actually a REST API capability. With this REST API capability, we simply put some REST calls into the query service that is going to interrogate a database, bring this information into an Amazon S3 bucket. Is going to be the storage, from which, of course, our tool is going to pick it up, ingest it, work it, and eventually we can, at the end, present it to our cloud stakeholders, different FinOps personas, according to their needs, according to their specific accesses, I would say, to specific data through the cost management tooling. We had a possibility to use, of course, we had to look at what kind of format we're going to put this data in order to store it, to transform it and store it in the S3 bucket. The focus format can support different formats. You have them on the screen at the moment. Unfortunately, due to limitations on our side, our tooling does not accept XML, so we have to go for JSON or CSV. You can see it actually is the most compact format, is the CSV format, so we went actually for this one in order to reduce the file data sizes.
With this, we actually set up a solution which has certain good characteristics for us. Automated data transfers, like I said, very important for this is to have it systematic and automated, taking the data from the cloud service broker, converting it to Focus as an open industry standard, and making that available as an API. Importantly for us, through this, we also ensure what we call EUDPR. So, funny story, but the institutions are actually under a variant of GDPR called EUDPR. And we ensure data protection of these transfers by automating them and by allowing actually humans to only see the limited data set that they're allowed to see based on their accounts, based on their cost centers, so based on their access rights in the system. All of this is, of course, encrypted in transit so that the transfers are secure, and also everything is auditable because every transaction is logged, so that if there's any problems, if there's any questions about the data that was transferred, we can easily go back and see what exactly happened, when, how, where, and so on. So this all sounds quite nice, of course, but it wasn't without these challenges. Even in this simplified approach, we had really a number of challenges that we had to find solutions for.
Yes, so we had a few challenges. I would have had Radu to speak about this when you had that beautiful schematics in front of you. Sometimes it's easier to have a visual aid, but this one I think that would do. So first of all, we had actually to align the cost categories and service types across the two different systems. And for this, actually, we had to predefine, to do a mapping of all the consistent data translation, actually, of all the templates for this. So we had to have in place specific templates for data mapping. The scalability part actually was something that is still haunting us. We still have actually a small issue with this. To go a bit more into details. You've seen in the schematics that we have the information that is coming from AWS Athena is going to be stored in the S3 bucket. All sounds really nice, but during the first testing, that kept us a bit busy. We had this information coming from the commission side, translated, put nicely in the focus format in the S3 bucket. I see we checked, it's in the S3 bucket. We went into our system, nothing came in. We had to look at why. And then, okay, let's read the technical documentation of our tooling. We realized actually that the file dump that was in the S3 bucket was about 800 megabytes. I know it means nothing, it's really a small amount of data, but the tool limitation was it can accept, actually it can ingest files that are maximum 500 megabytes in size. So this is why it doesn't come in. So okay, let's go to look at how we can partition this data. So data partitioning is not something new. We're going to do this. And then we run into other problems. We had to look not only what works now and what we're doing now, but also what goes for the future. We have to make this solution future-proof. And also it has to be scalable, implementable by our European institutions. You don't only do it for us. It's an exercise that is going to be feeding information, and not only this, is going to be setting, I would say, the pathway for all the other European institutions who want to be connecting and using the focus format. I forgot to mention actually that this data dump for 800 megabyte actually was only for a month. So imagine when you have to go a bit bigger. Imagine actually 1 hour, because our cloud effort is growing, we have more and more data. This was done. We even looked at how to compact the data. We chose this, how to chose this CSV format, and still the problem is not solved. Data partitioning, going back to it, we partitioned the data, and then we realized that we have another problem, another limitation in our tool. It can accept up to maximum of 8 files in just about actually 8 megabyte, 5 megabyte. So okay, we're not going to go far with this. So looking, we found that we can even expand a bit more to this. We can go to 50 files. Made the calculus, okay, 50 files of 500 megabytes each, okay, looks good for the moment. We do not know what the future reserves, so we have to look into this as well. So there are discussions, I would say, in all sides to see how we're going to go further with this. We found a workaround is still actually what we have in place at the moment. We're looking at this, but we have a workaround is basically to look at categories, how we're going to put the data, actually to import data on categories. The main issue there is that you take information, it's partitioned on categories, the data sets are not going to be of the same size. You might have data sets that are probably going to be so a few kilobytes, some of them they're going to be much larger. Then you might have more than 50 files. If you have more than 50 files, you ingest those 50 files that were able to be ingested, not everything. So you will ingest only part of the information that leaves you with unreliable information, basically not really usable. So this is why we are looking a bit forward on how to deal with this. And I'll get a bit further in this discussion to what we found as a good solution for this. Next challenge that we had actually was with real-time data sync issues. We have different kind of information coming at different times. Actually, they are imported. And these batches of information, they are not necessarily, they do not have the same timestamps. They might not present actually the truth at, at the same moment. So we had to look at aligning this information on specific timestamps and do batches of data to import them, and we'll know exactly that at this specific time, this was the truth. These were the figures.
So ultimately, addressing those challenges, and we are all aware, as Julian was saying, that it's early days. This is something that was just developed this year. We're continuing to develop it, but we are already seeing the benefits. So there are benefits for both the Commission, Parliament, and the other institutions, other bodies and agencies of the European Union. For the Commission, it allows them to create data accuracy for internal reporting towards the client EUIBAs, because they allow the data extraction via API, whereas previously everyone had to use just a web page with manual processing, let's say, of the data that they have there, allowing that those automated connections can be built, removing manual work, and creating something that can be easily reused by the others. For the Parliament, of course, we now finally have a full data set. We don't have just the native import out of AWS and Azure, but we actually get brokerage fees, we actually get the other cloud solutions into our system, and can surface that aggregated but split based on accesses to our stakeholders, so they have a full view of their cloud spend. This gives them good visibility that they can have a multi-cloud view on the spend of their projects if they have resources running in multiple clouds, and with really a TCO, including brokerage fees. They can access this whenever they want because it's being automated imported, and it facilitates the discussions about the cloud costs because everyone has a trustworthiness in the data because they see that it's a full set of data, not just partial. Ultimately, for the other European Union bodies and agencies, it's something they can easily leverage. So the current setup is relatively simple, but that's a good thing because it means others can build against that very easily, whether with custom tooling that they want to develop or by using commercial off-the-shelf tools, allowing them to analyze their data further than what is available from the Commission. Because again, the Commission systems, very rightly for a complex environment, are focused on servicing the showback, costback, chargeback approach for the 70 entities involved. Because this is a standard, each EUI can actually decide how do they want to approach it, and either building their own or using off-the-shelf tooling. And if custom development is needed, it's not going to be against something unknown, which then a developer needs to come in, understand first what are the data formats and so on. If they are Focus certified, if they know what Focus is, they know what kind of data they will be dealing with. So in short, standards facilitate reuse of developed APIs, which means that it's easier to deploy new off-the-shelf tooling or bespoke tooling, and therefore easier to enable performing of advanced analysis on the data because you can plug in more tooling more easily. And for us, that means that this solution creates more effective, efficient, and economical use of resources in the FinOps domain for the European Union institutions. Now, of course, again, this is something quite new. It's still developing, so we have a certain vision and hope for what would next steps be. Our vision is that these approaches will allow us to standardize cloud cost and usage data across the European Union institutions, other bodies and agencies, and that we can leverage this actually to start building unified cloud FinOps practices, where on the one hand, every institution has access to all of its data and can perform and we can exchange the data and discuss about it in a standardized way. But on the other hand, each institution can also do things that are bespoke for them, that are specific to them, because we have different situations, we have different complexities of organizations. Some of the agencies are a couple of, not even dozen, literally a dozen people, to the sizes of the Commission of over 20,000 or the Parliament of over 7,000, which means that the needs and the complexities of those EUIBAs are different, and their appetite for analysis of this data is different. Furthermore, what we can see as next steps is that we're really hoping that the Focus format takes off systematically, and that from the cloud service providers in the future, we can get more Focus formatted data. That would also help for direct integrations, whether that is that the Commission integrates into their tooling a Focus export instead of having to build a custom connector, or that the institutions, when they want more granularity than what is available from the Commission, can easily implement a direct connection for an additional cloud service provider. Then what we hope is that this will be taken up by the other institutions and that they will enable their teams to become more of a FinOps practitioner by leveraging this data, that is not just limited to one or two persons who are looking at the dashboard that the Commission provides, but that they can really share this data within their organization. And of course, as you can imagine, the Parliament and the other institutions are for years very active in sustainability topics, including, for us, it's called the EMAS, Environmental Management and Action System, and we are very much analyzing what are the environmental impacts of our data center, and we're hoping with having more access to data through these standardized formats, we can do better in terms of the public cloud as well. Now, something that is not directly related to what we've implemented so far, but that we can see as a really important potential benefit coming out of Focus in the future, is the fact that we're really hopeful about the expansion to SaaS, because my service in particular actually covers both ITAM and FinOps, and a humongous pain point in the SaaS space, which is of course enormously growing ever since the pandemic especially, is that you're dealing with a gazillion vendor portals, that the data that you get out of the vendors is limited. It's based on what they want to give you, and often it's even nothing. The issue there being that very often they're even not themselves sure what they should be exposing to their clients. So if we have a good focus standard for SaaS data, hopefully in the coming years we can achieve that we can manage in a standard way, in a systematic way, with all the stakeholders, providers, tool vendors, clients, understanding what is the standard set of data that any SaaS should be exposing to its clients. That would, again, create much more an effective, efficient, and economical use of resources in the ITAM/FinOps domain.
And to build on actually what Neven was saying, I'm just thinking, going back a bit in the future, in the past, sorry, not in the future. We cannot go back to the future. It would be great, but no. We had, before doing this implementation with the Commission's tool, we had a few goes at, not only goes, we really had to do integrations with with the tooling of the major hyperscalers, with AWS, Azure, and others. And I have to say that it was not an easy task. It was much more difficult. Wish we had the focus format actually at our disposal back then. It would have been much easier, now that I think about it in retrospective.
Indeed. With that, we want to thank you for your attention. If you want to connect with us on LinkedIn, please scan it or see us later. And we are open for any questions that you may have.
I have questions for you.
You do? That's very good.
Guys, everybody big round of applause for Neven and Julian. You guys did amazing. You did wonderful. Not that anybody had any doubts about how great of a presentation this would be and how informative it was. And as I was sitting back there, we're thinking about a couple of things. And so I jotted down a few questions, if you don't mind.
Please.
Not rapid fire, that's a lie. I'm not going to do that. So one of the questions I was thinking about is, have any of the other European Union institutions adopted FinOps besides Parliament that you know of?
So FinOps, yes. What we built here with the focus export out of the Commission, we actually didn't know until we came here to Barcelona that anyone else had done it.
Yeah.
After the keynote yesterday, we talked with some of our colleagues in one other institution, and they said that they're actually just starting their own implementation based on the work that was done with the Commission by us. So it's not going to, so we can, if we go back and we have those squares where you just see the Parliament logo and just generic EU logos around, pretty soon one of those generic logos will be a concrete one.
That's awesome.
So it's expanding.
Very cool. How about this? How about when you were implementing Focus, were you able to utilize internal resources or did you get external resources? How did that work?
So the work was shared, in fact, between the Commission teams and the Parliament teams. And here I have to really thank our colleagues in Digit C1 at the European Commission, who were really, really great collaborators. And this could not have happened without their both operational involvement, but also mind share and really believing in it and wanting to build this with us involvement.
Yeah, not to mention that actually in the Parliament we had to take care of our site, and we do part of the work with our internal resources. Others, they are put in the care of consultants, and we have an amazing team. And I would really like to thank very much a specific person who is actually the one who came to me to talk to me about the focus format. His name is Chuan Ha, and I like to call him the magician because so far whatever I threw at him, he made it happen. And well, so thank you very much to him actually, and to the entire team actually who made this happen.
Well, okay, so you talked about like internally, I mean, the people that have helped you there, but how about the community? Were you able to reach out to anybody within the FinOps community, the broader community that are doing Focus now when you were doing it? Were you able to get help there or learn from them?
I'm quite new the whole FinOps
Oh, okay.
thing, I would say. Until last year, I didn't even know what that is, really. So last year in August, I was sculpted and brought in this team. We started working. I worked actually with our colleagues that we had in the Parliament and the Commission, so it was basically internally. And then I was invited to the FinOps event. Meanwhile, I had the possibility to follow up some training, actually, the practitioner training.
Hey, that's a really good training, I hear. My team might do it. Just plug.
Yes.
Just one plug. Sorry,
No,
got that in there.
I have to say that I really enjoyed that training. It was really great. And the trainers, one of them is in the room, but I'm not going to look at him. Yeah, so thank you very much, Rob. It was really a great training. What I would like to say is that why I started to tell you I didn't know anything about this is after this, I was invited to this conference. And they say, okay, I say, just another conference. Actually, it's amazing. Just by coming here, I met a lot of very talented people, a lot of people who know much more than I could probably ever know about FinOps. So we are more than happy actually to be here and talking about engaging with the community. Yes, we engage with them from here. We exchange so many, we have on those beautiful badges, we have the LinkedIn QR code. We engage with a lot of them, and even this morning, very early around the breakfast provided so generously by our hosts, we are discussing with one particular colleague who is very active in the focus community, and he came up with a solution to our problem just like that. And I was like, oh, okay. So, of course, we're going to go a bit more to the community now, and I really want to look a bit more into how we can engage, I would say more through the specific portals that you might have. I think that there is actually this FinOps community online, and I will keep in touch with a lot of the beautiful minds that I met here. So thank you guys to all of you. It's really great to have met you.
Yeah, and I think that's just great for anybody out here, right? Like if you are out there, especially what you just said, that you were engaging with somebody this morning over breakfast that had a solution for a problem that you have, this is a group of like-minded people. They might not have done the exact same thing you've done, but maybe they have, or they have a unique solution for it. So the fact that you have the opportunity right now to talk and network with people, and I hope to see you guys get more involved too, but all of you, also get involved and engage with the community members with you and help solve those difficult problems that you might be having. And with that, I want to just thank the two of you again so much. We really appreciate you presenting again, twice on stage, this stage. So one more big round of applause for Julian and Neven. Oh, sorry.
I think that we had some questions from the public. I saw a lady raising, very shy, a hand like that.
Oh, well, okay. If you say it out loud, then I can repeat it. Otherwise, it won't get recorded. That's why we don't have questions from the audience in here.
I'm sorry for that. I was not aware.
But if somebody does, we have a minute. I could make that work. Nobody? Now, did I embarrass anybody? And there are two.
Probably, I think that we already answered.
I am the most approachable person. You could tell to Rob if you don't want to tell to me. It would be like a whole game of telephone here. No. You can ask. Okay, the two of them will be available. There's a break right after this session directly outside of this room. There's going to be some snacks. We'll get their mics off of them. The two of you can go out there and answer questions if they have any.
Absolutely.
Perfect. That sounds great. So one more round of applause, this time for real, for Neven and Julian.
Thank you guys.
So very much.
Great
job, you guys.
Thanks for watching. Check out more FinOps X Europe content on our YouTube channel playlist. Like, subscribe, click the notification bell, and leave comments and questions for speakers to help our channel. We appreciate your support.